I love this. CNN calls it the heartbreaking viral video. Here is this Native American guy, Phillips, a liar, lying on CNN.
I was standing there and I seen that group of people in front of me and I seen the angry faces and all of that. I realized I had put myself in a really dangerous situation. All that anger and all that wanting to have the freedom to just rip me apart, you know, that was scary. This young fella put himself in front of me and wouldn't move.
Okay, so this is just a lie. It's just not true. He can move to the right, he can move to the left, he can reverse out. He walked into the crowd. So here's the actual tape. Now you're wondering, because I keep saying that he's lying. Here is the actual tape, several segments, beginning with black Israelites shouting slurs at the student, shouting at a black student, and then you will see Phillips approach the crowd and walk into the middle of the crowd. The crowd did not surround him. The crowd did not mob him. Nothing like that. He walked into the middle of the crowd, singing and chanting, walked directly up to the student you saw in the original tape, and then started banging his drum in the student's face. Here's what actually happened that the media refused to cover because they're liars.
Your college degrees was paid off of the bloodshed of slavery. Your houses, your mortgages, everything your parents own was given to you by the bloodshed of our people.
He said, this racist. What the hell is all this?
Right.
What the hell is you see a crackers with Make America Great hat on? Yeah, you's a cracker. You's a cracker. All of you crackers.
Okay, the kids don't do anything, right? The kids are doing nothing. And then you will see, I mean, there's tape of it, of Phillips walking into the middle of the crowd and banging his drum right in this kid's face. And there's another piece of tape in which the kid turns around and tries to actually stop another kid from having an argument with Phillips, because Phillips is shouting that all these white kids should go back to Europe at one point. Or it wasn't, I think it was one of Phillips's friends who was shouting at somebody. That's not how the media covered it. That's not, and we'll get to the students' statements about this, which are a lot more true than anything Phillips had to say in just one second. So here is what the student said. First of all these folks online started trying to dox the kids. So Kathy Griffin, dox means find their personal information and put it out publicly. So Kathy Griffin put out a statement saying these kids deserve to be doxed. They're 15-year-old, 16-year-old kids who didn't do anything. And she's saying that, now, you may say these kids were a little bit rude. You may say that these kids shouldn't have been making faces in the tape. Are we going to pretend that this is the great crime of the century? Are we going to pretend that this wasn't a manufactured media lie from the very outset? Is that what we're going to pretend now? We're going to pretend that these kids decided to mob a Native American guy when precisely the opposite is the case. The guy walked into the middle of the crowd to confront people, banged his drum in a kid's face while black Hebrew Israelites were shouting at people. Do we have the tape of the guy walking into the crowd? Let's play that. See, here he comes, banging the drum, right? Now, there's plenty of room for him to go to the Lincoln Memorial without walking through these kids. Plenty of room. Here he comes. He's walking into the middle of the crowd with a bunch of dancing friends of his, banging the drum, walking into the middle of the crowd. He deliberately sought out the crowd, walked into the middle of it, and we're supposed to believe that the kids wouldn't let him move through, mobbed him, and scared him. Nonsense. It's a lie. Okay, and then what happened is because of all the doxing, they actually went after the wrong people because they don't care. Now, I'm old enough to remember when Laura Ingraham was boycotted for critiquing in mild fashion David Hogg, for saying that David Hogg was whiny. And she was boycotted. I said it was a dumb comment at the time. But was it boycott worthy? Of course not. It was absurd. Okay, David Hogg but he was untouchable. The Parkland kids, if you said anything about the Parkland kids, even saying they didn't know what they were talking about on guns, even saying they have a right to speak out, they went through something terrible, but they don't know what they're talking about, even this was considered uncouth. The entire left mobilized to destroy these kids, destroy them for doing nothing, so far as I can tell, that is even remotely worthy of this sort of reaction. Andrew Hodge is the brother of one of these kids. Okay, and here's what he wrote. Yesterday was supposed to be a day of celebration for my middle brother, Alex, who got married last night. Instead, my family had to deal with the fallout of my youngest brother, Michael Hodge, being falsely accused for standing and smiling in front of an indigenous man with a drum. People then proceeded to spam my family with harassment and threats of physical violence. We then find out our parents' address was posted online. If that wasn't enough, our family-operated business has been slandered and attacked. No one reviews evidence or does any due diligence. They immediately escalate things to a state of frenzy over much of nothing. The zealots scream for the head of Michael Hodge, knowing that there will be zero consequences to them if anything happens to him. My parents, uncles, aunts receive messages stating that they are pieces of bleep parents and won't be able to protect Michael Hodge forever. Seriously, what kind of behavior is this? Michael Hodge is the best kid I know. He volunteers for Special Olympics, took them skiing this Thursday, is involved in the church youth group, doesn't drink, smoke, volunteer for Drug-Free Clubs of America, and is an aspiring chef. People then started circulating articles of him regarding his dreams and goals of being a chef, find the colleges he plans on attending, and proceed to blow them up, encouraging them to rescind offer and calling him a racist POS, piece of bleep. You reach out saying how terrible of a family we are, defame us, threaten us, and you know nothing about us. Yet you circulate the information and spam us like it is the only truth that has ever existed in your lives. You condemn my parents for being horrible role models, yet you jump to conclusions and were ready to string up an innocent dude? Is that what you are teaching your children and family? I sure hope not. It saddens me people have nothing better to do on Saturday than scour the internet for drama and then dig up info on a family and rile up an army to attack them. Hold yourselves to a higher standard. Set a better example for your sphere of influence. We will all be better off for it. Nobody's going to do that. By the way, quick correction. Phillips, the Native American guy at the center, is a Vietnam vet, not a World War II vet. Just want to correct that for the record. Because when we screw something up on this show, we try to correct it, unlike members of the media who keep doubling down. Okay, then the kid who's at the center of all this, the kid who did something terribly, terribly wrong by apparently standing there while a guy banged a drum in his face. That kid put out a statement too. And here's what his statement says. Quote, I am providing this factual account of what happened on Friday afternoon at the Lincoln Memorial to correct misinformation and outright lies being spread about my family and me. I am the student in the video who was confronted by the Native American protester. I arrived at the Lincoln Memorial at 4:30 p.m. I was told to be there by 5:30 p.m. when our buses were due to leave Washington for the trip back to Kentucky. We had been attending the March for Life rally and then had split up into small groups to do sightseeing. When we arrived, we noticed 4 African-American protesters who were also on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, writes Nick Sandman. This is the Covington student in the middle of the controversy. I am not sure what they were protesting, and I did not interact with them. I did hear them direct derogatory insults at our school group. The protesters said hateful things. They called us racist, bigots, white crackers, F-words, meaning insult for gay people, and incest kids. They also taunted an African-American student from my school by telling him that we would harvest his organs. I have no idea what that insult means, but it was startling to hear. Because we were being loudly attacked and taunted in public, a student in our group asked one of our teacher chaperones for permission to begin our school spirit chants to counter the hateful things that were being shouted at our group. The chants are commonly used at sporting events. They are all positive in nature and sound like what you would hear at any high school. Our chaperone gave us permission to use our school chants. We would not have done that without obtaining permission from the adults in charge of our group. That's the chanting you're seeing the kids doing. They're not chanting to mock the guy. All they are doing is singing their high school song in order to drown out the racist stupidity being shouted at them. At no time did I hear any student chant anything other than the school spirit chants. I did not witness or hear any student chant build that wall or anything hateful or racist at any time. Assertions to the contrary are simply false. Our chants were loud because we wanted to drown out the hateful comments that were being shouted at us by the protesters. By the way, the tape lines up with this. It does not line up with a thing Phillips says. After a few minutes of chanting, the Native American protesters, who I hadn't previously noticed, approached our group. The Native American protesters had drums and were accompanied by at least one person with a camera. The protester everyone has seen in the video began playing his drum as he waded into the crowd, which parted for him. I did not see anyone try to block his path. He locked eyes with me and approached me, coming within inches of my face. He played his drum the entire time he was in my face. I never interacted with this protester. I did not speak to him. I did not make any hand gestures or other aggressive moves. To be honest, I was startled and confused as to why he had approached me. We had already been yelled at by another group of protesters, and when the second group approached, I was worried that a situation was getting out of control where adults were attempting to provoke teenagers. I believed that by remaining motionless and calm, I was helping to defuse the situation. I realized everyone had cameras, and that perhaps a group of adults was trying to provoke a group of teenagers into a larger conflict. I said a silent prayer that the situation would not get out of hand. During the period of the drumming, a member of the protesters' entourage began yelling at a fellow student that we stole our land and we should go back to Europe. I heard one of my fellow students begin to respond. I motioned to my classmate and tried to get him to stop engaging with the protester, as I was still in the mindset that we needed to calm down tensions. I never felt I was blocking the Native American protester. He did not make any attempt to go around me. It was clear to me he had singled me out for a confrontation, although I am not sure why. The engagement ended when one of our teachers told me the buses had arrived and it was time to go. I obeyed my teacher and simply walked to the buses. At that moment, I thought I had diffused the situation by remaining calm, and I was thankful nothing physical had happened. In a second, I'm going to read you the rest of the student's statement.